My name is Jack Doyle. I'm a senior environmental policy student at Colby College in Waterville, Maine, a small New England town far from where this story unfolds. This film follows my month-long solo journey across New Zealand's South Island. I arrived with a few cameras, one big duffel bag, and a growing understanding that the places we admire most are often the most vulnerable. I came here for the landscapes, the mountains, the water, the sense of scale that makes you feel small in the best possible way. But I also came here to understand what's changing beneath that beauty and what it takes to protect it. This documentary is about environmental change and conservation, not as abstract ideas, but as lived realities. It's about the people working inside these landscapes every day, trying to balance protection, access, and survival. Over the course of this month, I traveled across the South Island, stopping in 4 places that helped me understand this story from different angles. Each stop added another layer. Each conversation reshaped how I saw the land around me. My journey began in Queenstown. Queenstown is known around the world for adrenaline, for speed, spectacle, and tourism. But beneath all of that is something quieter and more fragile. Rivers, fish, and ecosystems that don't have a voice in the economy that depends on them. Inside a hunting and fishing shop in town, I met 2 fly fishing guides who see these systems up close every single day.
Ben Laverack, and I work at Hunting and Fishing Queenstown in the fishing department, and I also guide as well as a fly fishing guide.
Sam Fisher, again work at Hunting and Fishing Queenstown, and likewise I also work in the fly fishing department and guide as well.
In a town driven by tourism, the relationship between people and nature is complicated.
We're really heavily influenced by outdoor tourism here in New Zealand. Hunting tourism and fly fishing tourism has really taken off. Even more so, even in the last sort of 5 years, we've noticed how many tourists are coming to Queenstown in particular for the pursuit of catching world-class trout and shooting once in a lifetime deer and stuff like that. So our tourism is very driven by it, but the pressure on the animals and trout are becoming more increased with it.
Pressure was a word I kept hearing. Pressure on rivers, pressure on wildlife, pressure on places that were never meant to sustain this many people.
Well, the more tourism we get, the more likely that there's going to be stuff like Didymo spread and stuff like that. So that's definitely a negative. But like I was saying before, it's great for the economy, right? And I mean, Ben and I both fly fishermen guides, and most of the people that we take out are from overseas. So it's a bit of a catch-22. And we want people to be able to enjoy what we've got here as well. So a lot of our rivers have been destroyed through dairy farming and stuff like that, irrigation. So the farmers are pulling water from our rivers, with meaning basically that the habitats for trout is getting destroyed. Rivers are getting polluted through dairy farming as well. So the rivers aren't as clean as they used to be.
With the lower water flow and increased discharge of nitrates and phosphorus or phosphates into the water increases the amount of macroalgae that you get, pest algae like Didymo and stuff for those rivers. So it does negatively impact the fishing a lot in that aspect as well.
But river health is only part of the story.
So when the Europeans settled here, they brought over, the main pests in New Zealand are the Australian possum, stoats, ferrets and weasels.
Rabbits.
Rabbits, but they're not a predatory pest. Feral cats are a pretty bad one.
The damage they cause is basically they destroy our trees, and they also destroy our bird life.
Nesting birds.
Our native birds and native trees get totaled.
As we wrapped up, Sam offered a message that stayed with me.
Come over to New Zealand, enjoy the resources we've got. It's a beautiful country. We've got the best fly fishing in the world, in my opinion, probably some of the best hunting. But just respect the country whilst you're here. Do everything you can to minimise your footprint and the spread of diseases and stuff like that can destroy our waterways and stuff. So come here, enjoy it, but respect it.
Enjoy it, but respect it. That idea followed me south as I left Queenstown and drove toward Fiordland, where the mountains grow steeper, the rain falls harder, and conservation becomes a full-time fight against isolation and scale. Teanu is a gateway town. People pass through it on the way to some of the wonders of Fiordland National Park. But behind the postcard views is one of the most complex conservation landscapes in the country. Here, I met Hannah Edmonds.
My name's Hannah Edmonds and I'm a project lead for the biodiversity team here in Fiordland.
Hannah has spent decades working in this region, and she sees environmental change not as a future threat, but as a daily reality.
Well, the environment, as you can see, is all around us. Like it affects our daily life. Like we have some extreme weather events with the mountains. It's just a part of you, and your work is driven by the mountains, the scenery, the weather events. It's a revolving mass, isn't it? Over the past decade, and in fact over the past 20 years, there's been a lot of change. We find that species have sort of retreated in certain areas, like they've been almost chased, as it were, by invasive species into little refuges, into alpine environments. There's a lot of different things that have changed in the marine environment. Sea temperatures have warmed, so we've got a lot more invasive species. We've got larger fish species in our waters that prey on the smaller species that aren't otherwise accustomed to larger predators. We have more frequent storm events and just rising temperatures.
But conservation here isn't just shaped by nature. It's shaped by funding, politics, and collaboration.
It's a moving feast of how to work within financial constraints with a government department. You have different governing bodies to work with. It changes how we manage. It changes year by year with different species intervention programs and how we get funding to do that. Nowadays we've got large programs for predator control, and it's not just DOC, it's other agencies. It's not just the department's job, is it? It's everybody needs to play a role, and I think we're quite lucky in a small area here where we've got a lot of people that are committed and work well with the department to get those conservation initiatives through. Just that buy-in, like, hey, this is our backyard too, so we all want to be a part of, seeing it to be its optimal.
When I asked Hannah what keeps her going, her answer was simple.
What gives me hope is people. There's some really good people that are passionate about conservation. Always hold on to a little bit of hope. Sometimes you think that with conservation, there's not a lot of gains, and in some places that is true, but you just need an individual with some passion that can drive a lot of change.
From Teanu, I drove back north, back to where growth and conservation collide most visibly, in a region changing faster than almost anywhere else on the South Island. Arrowtown feels quieter than Queenstown, but the pressure here is just as real. Development is creeping outward, and conservation is happening block by block. I met Anna Harding-Shaw at her home.
I'm Anna Harding-Shaw. I'm the Executive Officer of the Wakatipu Wildlife Trust. Probably the main changes that we've seen have been increased development. And it's been amazing seeing how quickly that change has happened. Like in 10 years, it's gone from green fields to concrete, and that's continuing at pace. But on the other side, from a positive perspective, over the last 10 years since I've been here, the amount of community involvement in conservation has increased hugely, which is great. And due to that, the wildlife that's visible in people's backyards and on reserve land has been anecdotally increasing. So New Zealand originally only had bats and seals as our mammals. There was nothing else. So everything else with fur and forelegs has been deliberately brought here, or accidentally, to New Zealand. So our native species are unadapted to deal with threats from mammalian predators. So they're used to camouflaging and being hunted from above. So our birds and lizards are incredibly well camouflaged, and they just know to freeze. They just freeze or they hide. But that makes you get eaten if you're being hunted by a mammalian predator, which hunt through both sight but also smell and hearing. There's 4,000 traps out just in the Queenstown region targeting those species, so mustelids, rats, and possums in particular. And just in the last year, we've removed 14,000 pests. Yeah, just in the Queenstown area, that's just Queenstown. And then there's groups doing the same in Glenorchy and in Wanaka as well. And it's nearly all volunteer managed as well. So I'm the only employee, I'm a part-time employee. But recent studies in volunteerism here have shown that the volunteer numbers aren't increasing, but the hours that the volunteers are putting in, this is across all volunteer industries, are more hours, less people. So it's just the same people doing more and more and more and more, basically.
From Arrowtown, I drove north again, ascending into a higher altitude landscape of ice, rock, and snow, where towering mountains and retreating glaciers give the illusion of permanence. Iraqi Mount Cook feels timeless, but nothing here is standing still. I met Ray Bellringer at the Department of Conservation office.
Ray Bellringer. I have been working here for 41 years.
Ray and I then began to discuss the major changes he has seen in the park.
Climate change in a big way, glacial recession, absolutely massive. So what's happened with our glaciers in European times is down wasting or thinning, which is exposing lateral moraines, which are very unstable. It impacts access for climbing, which is a big part of this national park, is the tradition of mountain climbing. So access has become much more difficult. Since COVID, we're now up to pre-COVID numbers with 1 million people a year. It's probably more about how the public and the visitors interact with wildlife would be a problem. A good example would be the feeding of kea. We have the biggest population of the only alpine parrot in the world here. People feeding keas, it changes their habits in a negative way. The biggest issue is probably underfunding, and so revenue streams are going to be important. There's quite a lot of work going on in the space, remembering that in New Zealand, freedom of entry is a key principle in our National Parks Act. No toll gates.
If there was one message that you could share with an international audience through this documentary, what might that be?
That conservation is incredibly important. It should be embedded in the whole nation's psyche all of the time. It's critical for the economy as a whole. So protected areas are the start point, especially for water, which is really important for farming and other economic purposes. So we're an integral part, not just an add-on for the country. We should be up there in part of of the whole nation.
A few days later, I was exploring a small town tucked beneath the mountains near Iraqi Mount Cook. While exploring, I struck up a conversation with a man at the local community gym who works for a helicopter tour company in town. When he heard about the documentary I was making on a tight budget across the South Island, he made a very Kiwi offer: a helicopter flight in exchange for a case of local beer. I didn't hesitate, and man, was I happy with that decision. After a month alone on the South Island, I don't see these places in the same way. I see pressure beneath beauty. I see people holding ecosystems together with passion, science, and volunteer hours. I see landscapes that are extraordinary, but not indestructible. This film isn't asking you to stop visiting places like these. It's asking you to visit differently. Respect wildlife, support conservation groups, and understand that access comes with responsibility. Because conservation isn't something that happens somewhere else. It happens every day through the choices that we all make. Enjoy it, but respect it.